Welcome, everybody. Welcome back. Yes, this is the morning show. And in the studios we have with us, we are going to talk about the Belize Policy Research Institute. We have Dr. Dylan Vernon. He's the executive director. And Mr. Devon Paulino, policy analysts with, is that BelPri or BelPri?
BelPri is
BelPri,
how we pronounce
BelPri UB.
Yes.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Ernesto. And
We were talking earlier about Friday and how you like Friday so much.
Yes.
I tell you one of the first thing I hate about Friday.
What's
I know
that?
what about nothing too complicated. Unfortunately, that's where we are. Fridays are for you get up by your coffee, and just think of nothing for the rest of the day.
I love learning on a Friday too, and I'm sure I'm gonna learn something right now.
So
I look on the glass half full.
You look on the glass
Half full.
Good morning, gentlemen.
For me, every day is an opportunity to learn something new. So.
Yeah, like they say, never too old to learn.
Indeed.
The Belize Policy Research Institute, Dylan, what is that? What is it?
Yes. No, that's a good question to start, and thanks for having both of us on this morning. BelPri, the Belize Policy Research Institute, is a kind of a think tank, as they call it, a research institute at the University of Belize. We're affiliated with UB. And we're just 1 year old. We just celebrated our first anniversary on March 24th. And the essence of the organization is that we want to promote more evidence-based policy development in Belize. And to do that, we select various themes over the course of a year, issues, problems that are there that need some policy attention. And we do the in-depth research, the analysis, and we make recommendations to government for policy changes. That's the essence of what we do. We believe that there has been, in the history of Belize, too many policies that are not based on evidence. They're more opinion, and this is what we do. And we're best to host such an institute, but at the National University, that has a mission itself to promote research that contributes to Belize's development. And so we're relatively new, but we've done work. We've done, I think I was here talking about it last year, the Belize economy in the 21st century, where we looked at the last 30 years of our economy and how we're doing. We've done several seminars. We have several projects in the pipeline, including one that's coming out soon on regulating money in politics, campaign finance regulation. We have one coming out on the budget. How do we do budgets in Belize, national budgets? And we have others in the pipeline, but we're here this morning because we launched what we think is going to be one of our flagship outputs. That is a Belize Policy Tracker. And we're here to share about that, and it's basically our first anniversary celebration and activity to launch this policy tracker. And so we're here to talk about that today.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Policy tracker. Yeah, who are you tracking?
Perhaps you can
Sure.
you can come in here,
No problem.
Devon. Yeah.
So what we're looking at is if, as researchers or the general public, people often are not knowledgeable about different policies that the government, public policies that the government issue through its various ministries or departments that affect everyone. And so what we've done is to compile all the policies, national policies that we could put our hands on. Through this research, we've contacted the CEOs of the different ministries, and what we've done is to create a database, a platform that house these policies, these national policies. What happens is that as a user, and on the platform, you don't need to create a profile per se. As a researcher, you might just want to know, okay, with regards to health, what policy exists? And you could go into the platform, search health, and the various policies within that sphere would show up. And what can happen is you can click that and it will take you to a page that gives you a summary of what the policy is. There are various types in the system, including some draft legislation. Of course, it aims to help people to be aware of what those various policies are, and in the future it would allow us to do policy analysis on these various documents. So there's a section there that allows us at BelPri to do.
Are these policies in specific areas or policies in general?
So these are all the policies that exist or are currently in existence in Belize.
That have been made by the authorities,
Right.
the policymakers. How far back do you go?
So
Those that exist today.
right, yes. So
How many of those are there?
So
quite
currently
a
in the
bunch, I would
system we
suspect.
have over 80, and we will try our best to keep those updated.
And
as
those
we go
policies affect our daily lives, right?
on. Indeed,
In all areas.
sir.
And what you're saying is that these are, many, if not all of these policies have been arrived at without enough data, without enough research.
I think we'd say that some of them have had that lack of sufficient data, but I mean, some of them also were based upon some good research. I think in essence the purpose of the tracker is to put the word public back in public policy, to have people know what these policies are, have access to them, easily access to them. You can download, you can comment,
You can comment.
can interact with
Is there
them.
someone
Yes.
looking at these comments? Is there a body that looks at it and taking it?
Well,
because this is the problem we've had. We've had policies being made, and we don't even know they exist, and we don't know how they got there.
Right.
Right.
Many years later, we come back, and some lawyer will say, "Why we have this law? And we need to change it." 10 years later, he comes back and says the same thing,
Exactly.
but nobody changes it.
Exactly.
I
and that's
know,
where
I know we
fit in.
should.
Yeah,
And this is the
that's-
problem we always have. We make some, like yourselves, but the people who actually
Yeah.
can manage it or make the changes don't get involved.
It's a tool for education. It's a tool for interaction. And one of the things that is, I think, unique about it is that a user, for example, if there's a new bill that comes up that has a new policy, and we put it on the tracker, it is also a space to have people comment and give their views. And then we at BelPri, who monitor the comments, can put these together and share them with the relevant authority. And so in that way, it's also used for consultation. So there's education, there's consultation, and then there's tracking along the way. I mean, we had to decide how far back we go, because there's some policies that are no longer in existence.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it wasn't an
I
easy
could
task.
probably be an eye-opener too, right?
Definitely.
It wasn't an easy task to collect these policies, because you would think that the government would have this already, that there would be one place
Imagine.
you could go
There you go.
and you have all these policies. It didn't exist. We needed it for our own work, and so we just created it. And it's like an app, but it's a web-based tool. And we collected as many as we can that are current or that are new and being proposed. And even in collecting them, we had to really dig deep. There were some instances where the ministries were saying, here are policies. Some other ministries were saying, we don't know about that, when we know that it exists. So the fact that we're putting this out there, I think, will be a one-stop shop.
Should be interesting, yeah.
Where everybody can go, including the media, students, government officials, and say, what's the policy on on culture in Belize? And the most updated one will be there. And you can research, see a summary, download it, and interact with it. And that is true for health, for tourism, for education, for all thematic areas that the policy exists on.
So this is open for the public to access. And now this leads me to my question. The jargon and the language used in these policies, are they easily understood by the general populace? And if not, is there a way to kind of
Translate it?
Yes, translate or interpret it so that it's easier for persons who might not be too familiar with certain words or jargons that are used?
Yeah, so some of them are actually indeed in academic language or big words, and that's why we have a summary of each that someone can go and, before looking at the policy, take a quick look at a couple paragraphs of summary, and then we do that for every policy.
What's the website address?
So we have a flyer there. I don't know if it can be shared there, where you could follow, and there is also a QR code. It's located on the university's website. So if you type in Belize Policy Tracker UB, there is a link there that would take you to it.
Okay.
And it's accessible, free. There is no need for you to create a profile per se. Of course, that comes with the accessibility. There are key features on the tracker, especially for researchers as well, where you can subscribe to it. And if there's a change in any policy, it will notify you as a user, like, hey, this policy has been updated. That is if you create a profile, you know. And of course, we understand that we may not be able to access all the policies that are out there. However, we have on the website a notification letting people know, hey, if you're aware of a policy, you can share it with us, and then we can then add it to the tracker.
Yeah, I got it here.
So it could be
Public Policy Tracker.
Right.
And we also
It
have
looks
this
friendly.
Very user friendly.
How it works, you know.
this
Yeah.
bookmark
People like me, I
with a
need to
QR
know that.
code.
And that will direct you to the site itself.
Yes.
Now, I have to ask, because being in partnership, I would say, with UB, right? Why was that done as opposed to not necessarily another educational institution, but why particularly UB and not some other entity in the country?
Well, I think the answer to that is this, that the Belize Policy Research Institute, we do research on specific policies, and we put out recommendations and advocate for them. And when we were doing our initial sort of formative work, we realized that we needed a database if we're going to select policies that we are going to try to influence. And one didn't exist. And so we began to put it together, and then we said, why not make it something that is publicly available, make it a public service? And where best to do it than the University of Belize, which has that
The
mandate.
university should do that. I think so.
And so the database and the back end is housed at the ICT department at UB. And it gives it permanence. There's a place the database is going to always be. And the University of Belize has been very instrumental in making this happen, in that they have funded BelPri to do this work, to collect the data, and now UB is hosting the database. And so this is an example, to me at least, of our national university in action, providing a national
I
service.
agree. But how in the meantime, how are you going about gathering your data and doing your research? Because this is important. You know, we need to find out. We have, every now and then we hear their e-governance, and the government is putting in, you know, digitizing a system here and there and so on. It seems to be hodgepodge, a little bit all over the place.
Yeah.
We just had the news story of they are now going to introduce biometrics and digitalize the public service records, and the union is, hold on, you know, and us out here just looking in and going like, with, you know, I mean, another one is being, why are you going to oppose this? But they may have a point. So
Well, you know, you're
could
right.
this lead to a blanket digitizing of the government service?
Well,
So
I
in a
don't
few
know.
years, I can go tag in and find out how much a minister spending in car. You know.
I think that's bigger than what we are attempting. But I get
it could.
I get what you're saying. Now, on the policy side of things, there is indeed a hodgepodge of policies out there, and what Devon does, and he's the leader of this project, and with his team, he monitors on a regular basis policies that are being developed or discussed. And now that we have a base and a foundation, it's easy to add to it.
Right.
Now, one of the things we're going to do in the phase 2 of our policy tracker is one of the things you're saying. We're going to select specific themes, and I'll give the example, say, of the budget, and maybe, say, corruption or transparency, maybe the Integrity Commission, and track those specifically over time. And so we can say the budget tracker will, on a regular basis, tell the Belizean people how the budget is being spent. If an audit is done, what the budget is spending money on, and do some comparisons.
But
Tracking that will give people on a more regular basis, as opposed to at the end of the year when audit comes out, and sometimes we know that audits haven't been done for many years.
But I was
What
going
is
to come.
happening?
I mean, Devon, that will make your job difficult. You're taking on the JPAC
Right.
responsibility. You won, or do you have a team? You have resources? Do you have,
So-
I don't know, whistleblowers or spies in every department to feed you information?
I believe this tool will allow us to. How do I put it? We can't do their jobs for them. However, we can assist in doing the research and analysis to allow the public discussion, to make people aware of these.
Because it
these
has to have
issues.
some kind of accuracy and some
Right.
detail. That's important.
The advantage that BelPri has is that it's within the University of Belize. And we couldn't have done this policy tracker to the extent that we have it without student interns helping.
Right.
And so it could even be at a point when, students come and go, but we have 2 student interns now who have helped so much with this tracker and are monitoring things. And we can add to that. And in other words, use the university's extensive resources, human resources, to assist in the monitoring. At the same time, students are learning how to be a part of the policy process.
Get more involved.
And at some point in time, it could even be something they get credit for. So that is something we're already doing that we want to expand, so that we have more human bodies and minds helping out with this. Because you're right, it takes a lot of time to do this monitoring. So we have to be selective in the ones that we choose to do more monitoring of. Because the 80 or so that are there might be an announcement tomorrow, the government is amending the tourism or the cruise tourism policy, and so we will
They've
go
just
into the
introduced
tracker
a whole new
and we will say
education policy.
update. There's something changing with this, and we will give the change and a commentary on it, and then people. Now, because we already have it in the system, it's easier to do that.
Yeah, you can,
Now,
you can maneuver it.
If we are going to track something more specifically, for example, the budget or parliamentary decisions, then we will need to do much more work.
Right. Now, I know that this is in its infancy, 1 year completed. And I know right now you're heavily focusing on the monitoring, the gathering of this information as well. But I'm sure that you've placed some thought into the analysis. Is it only for those who are a part of BelPri, or will you bring in other persons from the outside to be a part of this analysis of these policies?
Well, the tracker is the tracker is a tool. And anyone can use it to do analysis. We are going to select some and do our analysis. But anyone can use this tool like your phone or any other tool how they want. But besides that, we have a research program, policy research program, that we select several themes to go into a deep dive. And this is the example I gave of the Belize economy in the 21st century is one. The campaign finance regulation report that is coming out soon is another. We have, as I said, a budget analysis scorecard project coming out. And these are deep dives. When I say deep dives, you select the issue, you do rigorous research, you do rigorous analysis, and then you put out your recommendations and report, and then you make it accessible to people by breaking it down, and we're doing media, etc. Now, every year we're going to do at least 3 of these, and put it out not only in hard copy, that is a report that is more academic, but also in digestible, accessible bits and pieces. And so in addition to the report, we have a publication called Critical Voices, which is a shorter, sort of more accessible.
Yeah, you have some newsletters here.
And then we have newsletters
Policy.
that we also break things down a bit more.
Yeah.
We use the social media a lot. We are getting there. I mean, you have to these days, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, to get out the information and to make it more accessible to people. The whole idea is if you're going to influence policy, you have to do the research, and you have to know your facts, you have to be aware, and then you have to make people know and be a part of not only creating the policy, but be a part of advocating for the change.
And holding those who make the policies accountable.
Indeed.
I'm just thinking right now, is there a policy on how the government uses fuel? Why I bring it up, we have this whole issue with the price of petrol going up. And, everybody is looking at the GOB and saying, oh, come on, you collect too much tax and, that kind of thing. Can I go there and find what their policies on fuel, and then go back and say, are you following your policy on how to conserve on fuel?
Right.
There isn't one there, but I was thinking just this week, and as the same questions you're asking, what is our policy on fuel importation? How do we come up with the tax? And
their usage, if they want me to conserve, do they have a policy and saying, and times like this, we need to control our fleet.
Yeah.
You can only drive so much, I don't know, is there a policy there?
It's something that we are going to find out, because clearly it's a relevant one.
Of course.
And there is a policy. It might not be in legislation, or
It's
isn't
sitting in somebody's desk somewhere.
Yeah, but there is a policy because they make announcements that are policy related. The price will go up or down.
Right. So there has to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something that they
But
follow.
it is not very well known. Only a few people might know it. And when you look at that policy, and you maybe have to put some things together, you might say, but this can be improved, or that doesn't make sense. One of the questions someone was asking me, and I didn't know the answer to it, was when a shipment of diesel or fuel comes in, when does the price go up? That is, does the government only increase the price when there's a new shipment, or?
That comes up normally. No, they don't. They pick up, I think, at midnight when they change it, and then you say, well, if you have the old price, old stock, then the rebuttal to me was, yeah, but when I don't have old stock and again new stock, I have to suffer the loss,
So
there are policies there.
That requires
Yes.
some serious policy
That's
thought.
right.
And,
It does.
and
It does.
getting a copy of that and analyzing it is something that, as I'm speaking here, Devon, that's something that we can do.
And we will loop in Mr. Ernesto, because it is something that
And that's relevant right now.
right, and it's not only
and these,
for academics.
no.
It affects everyone.
Everyone.
And so
Yeah.
discussions like
So
these
there
are
has to
really
be
important.
something there, because I also asked, I have a friend who was a gas station. I said, look, this you make your money by volume, right? So you announce, I will sell my fuel 25 cents cheaper than everybody else. And they will rush you. You know what I mean? They said, but you're not allowed to do that. You can't
So it's
do that.
regulated, yeah.
Like in the US, you pass different stations and they have different prices. I don't know if you can or you can't.
And of course, the higher the cost of a gallon of diesel, the more tax the government makes.
Yes.
And over time, over the course of a year, you know, it goes up and down, and they predict, I suppose, what income they will have. But if they get more income from taxes than they predict,
They call it a windfall.
then there should be a policy then as to how that money is used. So, I mean, there's a lot there to investigate.
This is a good, and I wish you all the success, because if you're looking at the budget and you are able to at least detail it in some way that I can understand, at least I could go into their fuel cost within the government and say, but you're spending so much on fuel, do you need to spend? I mean, it's a good idea. But that's a lot of work there, man.
Yes, it does.
But it's going to be students will be like a selective, and work along with you.
So
it would look good on their resume, for instance.
Indeed. So we do have an internship program that we launched last year as well, and so we do have student interns.
And we also have a staff other than us. We have two more people, and one of the things that we also do, and we've begun to do this year, is that our services are in demand. We've been approached by other organizations, including government. And the best example right now is the Ministry of Youth approached BelPri and asked us to coordinate the development of the next National Youth Policy for Belize. And so we're doing that. We just began. You're going to be hearing more about it. And when we do a project like that, as a consultant, we would then be able to hire human resources to assist us to do that. But we coordinate, we ensure there's a quality standard. And so the fact that the ministries are approaching us to assist them in policy development is proving our vision correct, that there is a need for an institute like this within the University of Belize, where Belizeans are assisting the government to do the policy
development. And the
development.
university should have that data.
And
the universities where they should all be banked, and it works. In fact, now that this policy about youth, we were just talking this morning about maybe banning social media for under 16 young people. That needs to be looked at.
Australia has done
Yes.
that. A few other countries.
Several
Other
countries
countries
have done it.
regulate it, yeah.
It is something to
How would that
consider.
work? Yeah.
And of course, all this requires some research, looking at pros and cons, and coming up with, and this is important, what is fit for purpose for our national context. For example, right now, we're at the stage of making recommendations for campaign finance regulation, and you can't just use a model that someone else did in a European country or even a Caribbean country. You have to say what is fit for purpose for Belize's context, and what is practical and what will work. And you then offer what is...
But with the resources you have, you'll have to pick your battle.
Yes.
Yes, most definitely.
We can't do everything.
No.
We don't want to
Well,
replace
maybe
government.
the budget might be a good start. You just mentioned transparency.
So-
Those are good, because those pinpoint other areas, maybe not in detail, but hide them out. Anything you missed before we go? Unfortunately, we need you guys to come back.
No, that's fine. Yeah, on the
the
budget,
usage.
the first thing we're doing is looking at how it's the process, how many people participate in it, the timing of it, how transparent it is, and the oversight. That's the first base. And then that report will compare how Belize does budgets to other countries, and then we get into the budget analysis. But the last thing I want to say is, look, please use this tool, this Belize Policy Tracker, for your own education, your own advocacy. Interact with it, share with us policies that we haven't included yet, and it's a public service that we are providing that anyone can use, and it's very easy to use. See it as a tool, but as a tool for education and also advocacy.
Will you have your homework, the fuel policy, the fuel usage policy? So what exists?
That is one
What is out there?
to put in the mix.
I feel like it could be a joint collaboration now.
Thank you very much for coming, gentlemen. It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thanks for having us to share.
Yeah, Dr. Dylan Vernon, and of course, Devon Paulino. You're also a lecturer at UB?
I used to lecture at UB.
You've this
But no
got your
longer.
full time now, right?
Well, we might soon. We are working on creating a degree in public policy, so I may enter the classroom once more again.
Okay.
So my guy.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Stay with us, folks. We'll change gears a little bit. We'll be back with other guests after the break.